Every single one of us carries a hidden garden within our hearts, but sometimes we forget to water the flowers because we are too busy staring at the withered leaves of our past mistakes. It is a natural human tendency to look back and wonder why we chose a certain path or why we spoke words that left a mark on someone else. We often become our own harshest judges, standing in a courtroom where the trial never ends and the sentence is a constant weight on our shoulders. You might find yourself lying awake at night, replaying a scene from years ago, wishing you could reach through the fabric of time to change a single second. This lingering shadow is not a sign of your weakness, but rather a reflection of your deep desire to be a better person. Yet, there is a profound difference between learning from a fall and staying on the ground to count the grains of dust. In the ancient times of the Buddha, there was a young man named Rahula who was learning the importance of reflection and honesty. One day, the Buddha used a simple bowl of water to share a timeless truth. He asked if the water in the bowl was fit to drink after it had been used to wash dirty feet. When the answer was clearly no, he explained that a heart filled with unacknowledged mistakes and persistent guilt is like that clouded water. However, the lesson was not meant to make the young man feel small or broken. It was a gentle guidance toward clarity. To find peace, one must first recognize the dirt, then pour it out, and finally refill the vessel with clean, clear water. This process of pouring out the old is the essence of forgiving yourself. It is the realization that you are not the mistake you made, just as the bowl is not the dirty water it once held. Many people walk through life believing that being hard on themselves is a form of spiritual discipline or a way to ensure they never fail again. You might think that by holding on to your guilt, you are paying a debt to the world. But if you look closely, you will see that a heart burdened by self-reproach has very little room left to offer love to others. When you are unkind to yourself, you inadvertently create a vibration of tension that touches everyone around you. True compassion must start within the boundaries of your own soul. If you cannot offer a hand of friendship to the person you see in the mirror, it becomes much harder to authentically serve the world. Imagine a tree that refuses to let its yellow leaves fall because it is ashamed of the seasons. That tree would eventually suffocate under its own weight, unable to welcome the buds of spring. There is a beautiful story about a monk who was known for his incredible patience and his ability to remain calm even when things went wrong. A group of travelers once asked him how he managed to stay so light-hearted when he had faced so many hardships in his youth. The monk smiled and told them about a small wooden box he used to carry. Every time he felt he had failed or made a poor choice, he would write it down on a piece of paper and put it in the box. One evening, he sat by a river and opened the box, intending to read every failure. But as he looked at the papers, he realized that the person who wrote those notes no longer existed. The man who had made those mistakes had already learned, suffered, and grown into someone else. He realized that by keeping the notes, he was trying to keep a ghost alive. He set each piece of paper on fire and watched the smoke disappear into the night sky. You are a flowing river, not a stagnant pond. The water that passed under the bridge a minute ago is already gone, and the water touching your feet now is fresh and new. Why do we insist on identifying with the water that has already reached the ocean? Every breath you take is a chance to begin again. The teachings of the Buddha remind us that change is the only constant in the universe. This includes the change within your own character and your own mind. When you realize that the you who made a mistake in the past is not the you who is seeking peace today, the grip of guilt begins to loosen. You can look back with understanding rather than resentment. You can say to your younger self, I see that you were struggling, I see that you were confused, and I forgive you for not knowing then what I know now. Think about the way a mother treats a child who is learning to walk. When the child stumbles and falls, the mother does not scold the child for being clumsy. She does not tell the child that they are a failure for losing their balance. Instead, she reaches out with warmth, picks the child up, and encourages them to try again. Why is it that we can offer this boundless grace to a child, but we refuse to offer it to ourselves? Inside every adult, there is still a part of us that is learning to navigate the complexities of life. We are all children in the vast classroom of existence, stumbling over the lessons of greed, anger, and delusion. To forgive yourself is to become your own loving parent. It is to recognize that falling is an inseparable part of the journey towards standing tall. In the forest of our minds, there are many paths. Some paths are wide and well-worn by the feet of regret. We walk them so often that we can find our way even in the dark. But there are other paths, narrower and hidden by tall grass, that lead to the meadows of self-acceptance. To find these paths, you must be willing to stop looking at the ground and start looking at the light filtering through the trees. There was a practitioner long ago who struggled immensely with his temper. He would often speak harshly to his companions and then spend days in deep misery, hating himself for his lack of control. He felt he was a stain on the community and considered leaving the path altogether. One day, an elder monk took him to a garden where a lotus was blooming in a muddy pond. The elder did not talk about the mud as something disgusting. Instead, he pointed out that without the nutrients in that very mud, the lotus would never have the strength to push through the water and open its petals to the sun. Your mistakes are the mud of your life. They are not there to swallow you whole, but to provide the grounding and the lessons necessary for your wisdom to bloom. If you were perfect from the start, you would have no empathy for the struggles of others. Your scars are not signs of ugliness, they are maps of where you have been and how much you have survived. When you forgive yourself, you are not saying that what happened was good or right. You are simply choosing to stop letting the past dictate the quality of your present moment. You are deciding that your life is worth more than a perpetual cycle of shame. This decision is the ultimate act of kindness. It is the moment you stop being your own enemy and start becoming your own best friend. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, and most of those battles are fought within the silence of their own thoughts. We are often so wrapped up in our own perceived inadequacies that we fail to see the shared humanity in everyone around us. We think we are the only ones who have ever felt this way, the only ones who have ever let someone down or let ourselves down. But this is an illusion of the ego. The ego loves to feel special, even if it means feeling specially bad. By stepping out of the spotlight of self-judgment, you begin to see that you are just one of many travelers on a winding road. This perspective brings a sense of relief. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to have flaws while still being worthy of peace and happiness. Imagine you are holding a heavy stone in your outstretched arm. If you hold it for a minute, it is no problem. If you hold it for an hour, your arm will ache. If you hold it for an entire day, your arm will feel paralyzed and numb. The weight of the stone never changes, but the longer you carry it, the heavier it feels. Regret is exactly like that stone. The event happened once, but you carry the weight of it every single day. The only way to find relief is to simply open your hand and let the stone fall to the ground. It sounds simple, yet it is one of the hardest things for the human heart to do because we have become addicted to the weight. We feel that if we let go, we are letting ourselves off the hook too easily. But who is the one holding the hook? It is you. And you are also the one being caught by it. There was once a woman who felt she had wasted her youth chasing things that did not matter. She arrived at the gates of a quiet monastery, her face lined with the exhaustion of 1,000 regrets. She spoke to a teacher there, crying about the years she could never get back and the people she had hurt along the way. The teacher took her to a large bell hanging in the courtyard and asked her to strike it. She hit the bell, and a deep, resonant sound filled the air, echoing through the valley. The teacher asked her where the sound was now. She replied that it had faded away. The teacher then told her that her past is like the sound of that bell. It was loud, it was real, and it touched many things, but now it has moved on. If you keep trying to grab the echo, you will only find empty air. The only thing that is real is the silence that follows the sound, the silence in which you can now choose to speak a new word. Forgiveness is not a one-time event that happens after a dramatic realization. It is a daily practice, a gentle habit of the heart. It is the choice to wake up and not bring the ghosts of yesterday into the light of today. When you find your mind wandering back to the if-onlys and the should-haves, gently bring it back to the sensation of your breath. Remind yourself that you are here now, and in this now, you are safe. You are breathing. You are alive. The universe does not hold a grudge against you. The stars continue to shine, the rain continues to fall, and the earth continues to support your weight without asking for any justification. You are a part of this vast, interconnected web of life, and you have as much right to exist and be happy as the trees and the mountains. When we talk about the power of forgiving yourself, we are really talking about the power of returning home. For a long time, you may have been an exile from your own heart, wandering in the cold lands of self-criticism. Coming home means walking back through the door, putting down your heavy bags, and sitting by the fire of self-compassion. It means looking at the messy rooms of your life and deciding to clean them with patience rather than burning the whole house down. It takes time to reorganize the furniture of your thoughts. It takes time to heal the wounds you have inflicted on your own spirit. But every small step you take toward kindness is a victory. Every time you catch a negative thought and replace it with a breath of understanding, you are practicing the highest form of yoga. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but that step must be taken with a light heart. If you try to start a journey while carrying a mountain on your back, you will not get very far. Many seekers find that their progress in life or in their personal growth is stalled because they have not yet addressed the internal friction of self-hatred. It is like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on. You can press the gas as hard as you want, and you might move a little, but you will smell the smoke of the engine straining. Forgiving yourself is the act of releasing that brake. Suddenly, the same amount of effort that used to result in exhaustion now results in smooth, effortless movement. You find that you have more energy to help others, more capacity to laugh, and a deeper ability to see the beauty in the world. There is a story of a great king who had everything he could ever want but remained deeply unhappy because he could not forgive himself for a decision he made during a war many years prior. He sought out a hermit who lived high in the mountains. The hermit told the king to bring him a bag of the heaviest rocks he could find. The king climbed the mountain with the heavy bag, panting and sweating. When he reached the top, the hermit told him to throw the rocks one by one into the deep canyon below. With each rock the king threw, he felt his body become lighter. But the hermit noted that the king was still frowning. He told the king that the rocks were gone, but the king was still holding the empty bag as if it were full. The king looked down and realized he was clutching the rough fabric of the bag so tightly his knuckles were white. He let the bag go, and finally, he felt the true weight lift from his soul. We often hold on to the bag of our guilt long after the actual weight of the mistake has been processed. We become identified with the role of the one who failed or the one who is not good enough. This identity becomes a comfort zone, even if it is a painful one. Stepping out of that identity feels scary because we don't know who we would be without our stories of suffering. But who you are is far more vast than any story. You are the sky, and the stories are just weather patterns passing through. Rain, snow, or sunshine, the sky remains the sky. Your essential nature is pure, clear, and untouched by the dramas of the world. Forgiving yourself is the process of remembering this essential purity. It is the return to the original state of being, before the world told you that you had to be perfect to be loved. As we move forward together, let us think about the people in our lives who have shown us unconditional love. Perhaps it was a grandparent, a teacher, or a loyal pet. When you were with them, you felt that you could simply exist without being judged. They saw your flaws and your mistakes, but they didn't focus on them. They focused on the light within you. The practice of self-forgiveness is about learning to see yourself through those same eyes. It is about becoming that source of unconditional love for yourself. When you can do this, you become a sanctuary. People will feel drawn to your presence because you have done the hard work of making peace within. You become a living example of the fact that transformation is possible and that no soul is ever truly lost. Life is a grand tapestry, and every thread, even the dark and frayed ones, contributes to the final design. If you pull out all the threads that represent your mistakes, the entire fabric will unravel. Your errors have given you the depth of character that you possess today. They have taught you humility, which is the foundation of all true wisdom. Without the experience of being wrong, we would be arrogant and cold. Our mistakes soften us. They break the hard shell of the ego so that the tender heart can emerge. When you look at your life through the lens of self-forgiveness, you see that everything, even the pain, had a purpose. It was all part of the great unfolding of your consciousness. Sometimes, the things we find hardest to forgive are the things we did when we were just trying to survive. We look back from a place of safety and judge the person who was in the middle of a storm. We forget how loud the wind was and how dark the sky felt at that time. We judge ourselves for not being brave enough, or smart enough, or kind enough in moments of extreme pressure. But survival is a powerful instinct, and it often requires us to make difficult choices. Instead of blaming yourself for how you survived, try to thank yourself for getting you through to today. You are here, you are safe now, and you can afford to be gentle. The storm has passed, and you can finally lay down your shield. Imagine a garden that has been neglected for many years. It is full of weeds, the fences are broken, and the soil is dry. You could stand at the gate and cry about how terrible the garden looks, or you could pick up a shovel and start working. Forgiving yourself is picking up that shovel. It is the work of clearing the weeds of negative self-talk and planting the seeds of new intentions. It won't become a paradise overnight, but with steady effort and a bit of sunshine, the first green shoots will eventually appear. You don't have to fix everything at once. You just have to be willing to tend to the small patch of ground right beneath your feet. There was a traveler who was carrying a heavy lantern at night. He was so worried about the shadows behind him that he kept turning around to see what was there. Every time he turned, the light of his lantern swung away from the path in front of him, and he would trip over a stone or a root. A wise old woman passing by told him that the shadows are only there because he is carrying a light. If he keeps his eyes on the path and walks steadily forward, the shadows will always stay behind him where they belong. But if he keeps turning to face them, he will never see where he is going. Your past is a shadow. It exists because you are a being of light. Do not let the shadow distract you from the beautiful path that lies ahead. In the teachings of the forest traditions, there is a great emphasis on the quality of the mind in the present moment. They say that if the mind is pure right now, then the past is already redeemed. You don't have to go back and fix the past, you just have to be whole in the present. This is a very liberating thought. It means that the power to change your life is always within reach, right here in this very breath. You don't need to wait for a special sign or for someone else to forgive you. You can grant yourself that permission right now. You can take a deep breath, feel the air filling your lungs, and acknowledge that you are doing the best you can with the tools you have. That recognition is the first flicker of the flame of forgiveness. When you begin to forgive yourself, you might notice that your relationships with others start to change as well. You become less reactive and more patient. When someone else makes a mistake, you are quicker to offer them grace because you know how much you needed that grace yourself. The walls of judgment that you built around your heart begin to crumble, allowing for a more authentic connection with the world. You no longer need to hide your flaws or pretend to be someone you are not. There is a great strength in vulnerability. By admitting that you have struggled and that you are working on being kinder to yourself, you give others the permission to do the same. You become a beacon of hope in a world that is often far too cold and judgmental. Remember that the path of the Buddha is often called the middle way. This means avoiding the extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. In the context of our emotions, it means avoiding the extreme of ignoring our mistakes and the extreme of drowning in them. The middle way is to acknowledge the mistake with a clear mind, understand the conditions that led to it, and then move forward with a commitment to do better. It is a balanced approach that respects the truth without being destroyed by it. It is like tuning a string on an instrument. If the string is too loose, it won't play a note. If it is too tight, it will snap. You must find the right tension, where you are responsible for your actions but also gentle with your soul. As the sun sets and the day comes to a close, it is a wonderful practice to reflect on the events of the day and let go of any tension we are holding. Think of your mind as a house. At the end of the day, you close the windows and lock the doors so you can rest in safety. You don't leave the doors open for the wind and the dust to blow in. Similarly, don't leave the doors of your mind open to the regrets of the day. Whatever happened, whether you were productive or lazy, kind or irritable, it is over now. Let it be. Trust that tomorrow will bring a fresh start and a new opportunity to practice. Sleep with a heart that is at peace with itself, knowing that you are a part of the infinite dance of the universe. We often think of forgiveness as something we give to others, but it is actually a gift we give ourselves to set our own hearts free. It is a quiet revolution that happens inside the chest. It doesn't require an audience or a ceremony. It only requires a moment of honest reflection and a softening of the will. When you stop fighting yourself, you find that you have so much more energy for the things that truly matter. You can focus on being present for your loved ones, on creating something beautiful, or simply on enjoying the simple miracle of being alive. The world is full of noise, but within you, there is a silent space that remains untouched by any storm. That space is your true refuge, and forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to self-forgiveness is our own pride. We want to believe that we are above making certain mistakes. We have an image of ourselves as being wise, controlled, and virtuous. When we act in a way that contradicts that image, our pride is wounded, and we lash out at ourselves in anger. But this is just another trick of the ego. To truly forgive yourself, you must be willing to let go of your perfect self-image. You must be willing to be a regular, messy, sometimes confused human being. There is a deep humility in accepting your limitations. It is only when we admit that we are capable of making mistakes that we can begin to truly learn from them. The humble heart is a flexible heart, and a flexible heart is much harder to break. Think of a river that encounters a large boulder in its path. The river does not stop and argue with the boulder. It does not blame itself for the boulder's presence. It simply finds a way to flow around it, continuing its journey toward the sea. Our mistakes are like those boulders. They may be large and heavy, but they do not have to stop our flow. We can learn to flow around them, incorporating the experience into our journey without letting it block our progress. Over time, the water of our compassion will even smooth the rough edges of those boulders, turning them into part of the landscape rather than an obstacle. In the journey of life, we are all walking each other home. We are all carrying bundles of memories and experiences, some light and some very heavy. When you see someone else struggling with their load, your first instinct is usually to feel sorry for them and perhaps offer to help. Why not have that same instinct for yourself? You are also a traveler on this road, and you are also doing your best to carry your bundle. If you find that your load is too heavy, it is okay to put it down for a while. It is okay to sit by the side of the road and rest. You don't have to keep pushing until you break. Forgiving yourself is the act of allowing yourself that rest. It is the understanding that you are not a machine, but a living, feeling being who needs care and kindness. Every day is a new canvas, and you are the artist. You might have made some dark or messy strokes on the canvas yesterday, but that doesn't mean the whole painting is ruined. You can use those dark colors to add depth and contrast to the beautiful scene you are painting today. Some of the most famous masterpieces in the world have layers of old paint underneath them where the artist changed their mind or made a mistake. These layers add to the richness and the value of the final work. Your life is no different. Every choice you have made, even the ones you regret, has added a layer of richness to the person you are becoming. Embrace the entire process, the shadows and the light, the mistakes and the victories, for they are all part of the masterpiece that is you. When you look at a mountain from a distance, it looks solid and unchanging. But when you climb it, you see that it is made of millions of shifting stones, growing plants, and moving animals. The mountain is constantly changing, even if it appears still. You are like that mountain. You might feel stuck in your identity, but you are actually a dynamic process of growth and transformation. Every cell in your body is being replaced, every thought is coming and going, and every emotion is rising and falling. In such a world of constant movement, there is no place for a permanent label like bad or failure. Those labels are just static thoughts trying to describe a moving reality. Release the labels and just be the mountain, vast and open to whatever the weather brings. If you find it difficult to start the process of forgiveness, begin with something very small. Perhaps you can forgive yourself for a minor slip of the tongue or a moment of procrastination. Feel the small relief that comes from letting that go. Notice how it feels in your body when you stop holding that tiny bit of tension. Once you realize that the world does not end when you forgive yourself for a small thing, you will find the courage to address the larger things. It is like building a muscle. You start with light weights and gradually work your way up. The muscle of compassion is the strongest muscle in the human spirit, and with practice, it can lift even the heaviest of regrets. We must also remember that our actions do not happen in a vacuum. We are influenced by our upbringing, our environment, our culture, and our past experiences. This is not an excuse to avoid responsibility, but it is a reason to have perspective. You were operating with the level of awareness you had at that time, under the specific pressures you were facing. If you had known better, you would have done better. The fact that you feel regret now is proof that your awareness has grown. You are literally a different person now than you were then. Why should the current, wiser version of you be punished for the actions of the past, less informed version? It is like a high school student being angry at their younger self for not knowing how to read when they were a toddler. It simply doesn't make sense. As you sit in the quiet of this moment, let your heart soften. Imagine a warm light beginning to glow in the center of your chest. With every breath, this light grows brighter and warmer, spreading to every part of your body. This light is the light of your own innate goodness. It is the light that has been with you since the day you were born and will be with you until your final breath. No mistake can ever extinguish this light. No failure can ever dim its brilliance. This light is the source of all forgiveness. Let it wash over your memories, dissolving the sharp edges of guilt and the cold shadows of shame. Let it fill you with the quiet strength to forgive, to heal, and to love yourself exactly as you are. In the stories of the old masters, there is often a moment of sudden awakening where a person realizes that they have been chasing a phantom their entire life. The phantom of the perfect self is one of the most persistent illusions we face. We spend so much energy trying to catch this phantom, and when we fail, we feel devastated. But the moment you stop and look closely, you realize the phantom was never there. There is only you, here in this moment, imperfect and beautiful. When you stop chasing the phantom, you can finally start living. You can enjoy the taste of your food, the sound of the wind, and the warmth of a smile. This is the true power of forgiving yourself. It clears the fog so you can finally see the world. There was a great teacher who was once asked what the most important quality for a student was. Many people expected him to say discipline, or intelligence, or devotion. But the teacher simply said, a thick skin and a soft heart. A thick skin to handle the challenges and criticisms of the world, and a soft heart to stay open to the beauty and the suffering of life. Most of us have it backwards. We have a thin skin that is easily hurt and a hard heart that we use to protect ourselves. Forgiving yourself is the process of softening that heart. It is the realization that you don't need the armor of self-judgment to be safe. In fact, the armor is what is hurting you the most. When we let go of the past, we are not forgetting the lessons it taught us. We are simply letting go of the emotional pain that we have attached to those lessons. You can remember a mistake and understand its consequences without having to feel the burning sting of shame. In fact, you can see the mistake more clearly when the shame is gone. Shame acts like a distorting lens, making everything look darker and more twisted than it really is. Without shame, you can look at the past with the clear eyes of a scientist, observing cause and effect and deciding how to act differently in the future. This is the path of wisdom, where the past becomes a teacher rather than a jailer. You might feel that some things are truly unforgivable. You might think that what you did was so bad that you don't deserve to be at peace. But who decided that? The universe does not have a list of unforgivable acts. Even the most difficult paths can lead to the light if the person is willing to turn around. In the Buddhist tradition, there is the story of Angulimala, a man who had committed many terrible deeds. Yet, through a profound encounter with the Buddha and a deep commitment to change, he was able to transform his life and find peace. If someone like that can find the path to redemption, then surely there is room for you too. Your potential for transformation is infinite, no matter what has happened in your life. The act of forgiving yourself is a form of dana, or giving. It is the gift of fearlessness that you give to yourself. When you are no longer afraid of your own past, you can move through the world with a sense of quiet confidence. You are no longer looking over your shoulder, waiting for your secrets to catch up with you. You have already faced them, understood them, and integrated them into your being. This makes you incredibly resilient. Nothing the world says about you can hurt as much as the things you used to say to yourself. When the internal critic is silenced, the external critics lose their power. You become like a mountain that remains unmoved by the wind, no matter how hard it blows. Consider the nature of time. We often speak of the past as if it is a place we can visit or a solid thing that exists somewhere. But where is the past right now? It exists only as a collection of thoughts and images in your mind. It has no physical reality. It cannot touch you, it cannot hurt you, and it cannot hold you unless you give it permission. You are the one who is recreating the past in every moment by thinking about it. If you stop thinking the thoughts of regret, the past simply ceases to exist. It is like a movie that stops the moment you turn off the projector. You have the power to turn off the projector at any time. You can choose to project a different movie, one that focuses on the beauty of the present and the possibilities of the future. This is not to say that we should be irresponsible or ignore the harm we may have caused. If there are practical things you can do to make amends, then by all means, do them. If you owe an apology, give it. If you can fix a mistake, fix it. But once you have done what you can, you must let go of the rest. Carrying the guilt won't help the people you hurt. In fact, if you are stuck in your own suffering, you are less likely to be helpful to anyone. The best way to honor the lessons of the past is to live a life of kindness and presence today. A single act of compassion in the present is worth 1,000 years of regret about the past. Focus your energy where it can actually make a difference. As we walk this path together, let us be gentle with each other and with ourselves. The journey toward self-forgiveness is not a straight line. There will be days when you feel light and free, and there will be days when the old shadows return. That is okay. It is all part of the process. When the shadows return, don't fight them. Just acknowledge them and wait for them to pass, like clouds moving across the sky. Don't judge yourself for feeling regret, that would just be adding a new layer of judgment on top of the old one. Just breathe and stay present. The more you practice this, the more you will find that the shadows have less and less power over you. You are becoming the master of your own inner landscape. Imagine a world where everyone was able to forgive themselves. A world where people didn't carry the heavy burdens of shame and resentment. Such a world would be a much kinder, more peaceful place. By working on your own self-forgiveness, you are contributing to that world. Your personal peace is a ripple that spreads outward, touching everyone you encounter. You never know who might be inspired by your quiet strength and your ability to be kind to yourself. You are not just doing this for you, you are doing it for the collective heart of humanity. We are all connected, and when one of us heals, we all heal a little bit more. The power of forgiving yourself is the power of love in its purest form. It is a love that does not ask for anything in return, a love that does not have conditions. It is the love that says, I see you, I know everything about you, and I still love you. This is the love that the universe has for you, and it is the love that you are meant to have for yourself. Let this love be your guide and your protector. Let it be the light that leads you through the darkest nights. You are a precious and unique being, and you deserve to live a life that is free from the chains of the past. Open your heart, open your hands, and let the beauty of the present moment carry you toward a horizon of endless possibility. When you look at a tree, you do not see it as a failure because its branches are crooked or because some of its leaves have been nibbled by insects. You see it as a magnificent expression of life that has weathered storms and continued to grow toward the sun. You are that tree, and every scar on your bark is a story of resilience, a testament to your ability to endure and transform. The heavy silence that once felt like a prison can now become a sanctuary of peace, where you no longer need to explain yourself to the ghosts of yesterday. There was once a traveler who spent years searching for a legendary mirror that was said to show a person their true reflection. He climbed high mountains and crossed vast deserts, carrying a heavy backpack filled with tools to polish the mirror once he found it. When he finally reached the hidden temple where the mirror was kept, he was shocked to find that it was not a piece of glass at all, but a deep, still pool of water in the center of a courtyard. As he looked into the water, he saw his own face, tired and worn from the journey. He began to cry, realizing that he had spent his whole life trying to fix an image of himself that only existed in his mind. The water did not judge his tears, it simply reflected them with perfect clarity. In that moment of seeing himself as he truly was, without the filters of pride or shame, he felt a sudden lightness. He took off his heavy backpack and let it sink to the bottom of the pool. We often spend so much energy polishing the idea of who we are that we lose touch with the reality of our own hearts. We want to be seen as successful, wise, or perfectly composed, and when we fall short of these ideals, we feel a deep sense of betrayal. But the reality is that the heart does not care about ideals. The heart only cares about truth and connection. To forgive yourself is to stop being a polisher of images and start being a lover of reality. It is to accept the messy, unpredictable, and often confusing nature of being alive. When you stop demanding perfection from yourself, you find that the world around you becomes much more vibrant and alive. You are no longer looking at things through the lens of not enough, but through the lens of what is. In the history of many ancient cultures, there is a practice of repairing broken pottery with gold. Rather than trying to hide the cracks, the artisans highlight them, making the vessel even more beautiful and valuable than it was before it was broken. This is a profound metaphor for the human soul. Your mistakes and your pains are the cracks in your pottery. You can try to glue them together and hide the seams, or you can fill them with the gold of your own understanding and compassion. When you do this, you are not just fixed, you are transformed into something entirely new. You become a person who carries their history with grace, showing the world that even in brokenness, there is a path to a deeper beauty. Think about the way the earth handles the changing of the seasons. In the autumn, the trees let go of their leaves without any hesitation or regret. They do not cling to the greenery of summer, even though the coming winter will be cold and harsh. They trust in the cycle of life, knowing that the period of shedding is just as important as the period of blooming. We can learn so much from this quiet trust. If we could only trust our own internal seasons, we would see that our moments of failure and letting go are not endings, but necessary preparations for a new growth. You are allowed to have your winters. You are allowed to go through times when you feel empty or bare. These are the times when your roots are growing deeper into the soil of wisdom, preparing you for a spring that you cannot yet see. There is a story of a young student who went to a master, feeling very discouraged about his slow progress in meditation. He complained that his mind was full of dark thoughts and that he felt he was a bad person for having them. The master took him to a window and asked him to describe the clouds in the sky. The student said there were some white clouds, some gray clouds, and some very dark, heavy rain clouds. The master asked if the sky was bothered by the dark clouds. The student realized that the sky remained vast and unaffected, no matter what color the clouds were. Your awareness is the sky. Your thoughts and feelings, even the ones that feel bad or shameful, are just clouds. They are passing through you, but they are not you. You do not need to forgive the clouds, you just need to remember that you are the sky. This perspective allows us to observe our lives with a sense of gentle curiosity rather than harsh judgment. Instead of asking, "Why am I so terrible?" we can ask, "What was happening in my heart that led me to act this way?" This shift from why to what is the beginning of healing. It moves us from a place of condemnation to a place of investigation. When you investigate your own suffering with kindness, you begin to see the roots of your actions. Perhaps you acted out of fear, or out of a deep need for love, or out of a confusion that you didn't know how to handle. Seeing these roots does not excuse the action, but it makes the person who took the action much more understandable. It is much easier to forgive a person you understand than a person you are simply angry at. Sometimes the burden we carry is not even ours to begin with. We often inherit the guilt and the shame of those who came before us, carrying the weight of family expectations or societal pressures that have nothing to do with our true selves. We are like children who have been told to carry a heavy trunk without being told what is inside. To forgive yourself is to finally have the courage to put that trunk down and open it. You might find that it is filled with old stones that someone else put there. You are allowed to leave those stones behind. You are allowed to define your own worth, independent of the labels that were placed upon you before you even knew how to speak. Imagine you are a garden that has been rained on for many days. The ground is muddy, the flowers are drooping, and the air is heavy. You might feel that the garden is ruined. But the rain is what brings the life. Without that soaking, the earth would be hard and dry. The same is true for the rainy periods of your life. The times when you feel overwhelmed by your emotions or disappointed by your actions are the times when your heart is being softened. This softness is a precious quality. A soft heart can feel the beauty of a sunset, the warmth of a friendship, and the depth of a prayer. A hard heart, even if it is perfectly behaved, cannot feel these things. Be grateful for the rain, for it is making you a more sensitive and compassionate human being. There was once a community of weavers who were famous for creating the most intricate and beautiful rugs in the world. One day, a young weaver made a significant mistake in the pattern of a very expensive rug. She was devastated and wanted to throw the whole thing away. But the head weaver stopped her. He showed her how to take that mistake and turn it into a new, unique pattern that had never been seen before. The finished rug was even more sought after because of that one-of-a-kind variation. This is the art of living with self-forgiveness. You take the threads of your mistakes and you weave them into the pattern of your life. You don't try to unweave the past, you simply use the existing threads to create something new and unexpected. We live in a culture that is obsessed with the idea of moving on and getting over it. But the heart does not work like a computer that can simply delete a file. The heart integrates. It takes everything that has happened and folds it into the fabric of our being. Forgiving yourself is not about deleting the past, it is about integrating it in a way that is no longer toxic. It is like taking a bitter medicine and mixing it with honey so that it can be swallowed and used for healing. The bitterness is still there, but it is no longer the only thing you taste. The honey is your own kindness, your own patience, and your own willingness to keep going. When you sit in meditation or simply in a moment of quiet reflection, try to visualize yourself as a small child. Look at that child's face, their curiosity, and their vulnerability. Now, imagine that child made the same mistake that you are currently judging yourself for. Would you scream at them? Would you tell them they are worthless and don't deserve to be happy? Of course not. You would put your arm around them and tell them that it's okay, that everyone makes mistakes, and that you love them anyway. That child is still inside you. They are listening to every word you say to yourself. When you practice self-forgiveness, you are speaking directly to that inner child, giving them the safety and the love they need to grow. True strength is not found in being unbreakable, but in being able to mend. There is a quiet, steady power in a person who has faced their own darkness and decided to keep walking toward the light. This kind of power does not need to shout or prove itself. It is a presence that feels like a calm ocean after a storm. When you are in the company of such a person, you feel that you can also be yourself, with all your flaws and imperfections. By forgiving yourself, you are becoming that kind of presence in the world. You are creating a space where healing is possible, not just for you, but for everyone you touch. The concept of karma is often misunderstood as a system of punishment and reward. But in its deepest sense, karma is simply the law of cause and effect. It is a reminder that our actions have consequences, and that our current state of mind is the result of our past thoughts and deeds. This is not meant to make us feel guilty, but to empower us. If our past actions have created our current suffering, then our current actions of forgiveness and kindness can create our future peace. You are the architect of your own internal world. Every time you choose to forgive yourself, you are laying a brick in the foundation of a more peaceful future. You are not a victim of your past, you are the creator of your now. Think of the vastness of the universe, the billions of stars and the infinite reaches of space. In the grand scale of things, our individual mistakes are like tiny grains of sand on an endless beach. This is not to say that they don't matter, but to give them some perspective. The universe is not offended by your errors. The sun does not refuse to shine on you because you were impatient or unkind yesterday. Nature is inherently forgiving because it understands that everything is in a state of flux. To forgive yourself is to align yourself with the natural order of things. It is to accept your place in the vast, unfolding mystery of existence, where everything is constantly being born, dying, and being reborn in a new form. There was a woman who lived by a river and spent her days collecting smooth stones. She had a habit of writing a name on each stone for every person she felt she had failed. She kept these stones in a large jar on her porch. Over time, the jar became so heavy that she could no longer move it, and it began to block the doorway to her house. One day, a wise old traveler stopped by and asked why she was keeping a jar of heavy stones in her way. She explained that they were her reminders of her past. The traveler suggested that instead of writing on stones, she should write on the surface of the river. She looked at him, puzzled, but decided to try. She went to the water and used her finger to write the names of her regrets on the moving surface. Of course, the words disappeared instantly. She realized that the river did not hold on to her writing, and she didn't have to hold on to the stones. She emptied the jar into the river, and for the first time in years, she could walk freely through her own front door. We often block our own doorways with the stones of our past, thinking that we are being responsible by remembering our failures. But all we are doing is making it harder for us to enter our own lives. The river of time is always moving, and it is naturally designed to carry things away. You don't have to build a dam of guilt to keep your mistakes nearby. Let them go into the water. Let them be washed away by the current of your own breath and the passage of each new moment. The doorway to your heart is meant to be open, allowing the light of the world to enter and the warmth of your spirit to flow out. Forgiveness is an act of deep listening. It is about listening to the pain that lies beneath the mistake. When we act in ways that we later regret, it is usually because we are trying to satisfy a deeper hunger that we don't know how to address. Maybe we are hungry for validation, for security, or for a sense of belonging. Instead of judging the action, try to listen to the hunger. When you can identify what you were truly searching for, you can start to find healthier ways to nourish yourself. You can say to yourself, I see that I was feeling lonely and that's why I said those things. I understand now, and I will try to take better care of my loneliness in the future. This kind of self-understanding is the most fertile ground for genuine change. There is a legend about a bird that sings only once in its life, a song more beautiful than any other creature on earth. From the moment it leaves its nest, it searches for a thorn tree and does not rest until it has found one. Then, it impales itself on the longest, sharpest thorn and sings its heart out as it dies. We often act like that bird, searching for the thorns of our past to wound ourselves with, believing that our suffering is somehow beautiful or necessary. But we are not that bird. We are meant to sing our songs of joy and peace while we are alive and whole. You do not need a thorn to make your life meaningful. Your song is already beautiful, just as you are, without the need for self-inflicted pain. The journey toward tolerance and forgiveness is not about becoming a saint. It is about becoming more fully human. A human who is aware of their shadows but is not defined by them. A human who can laugh at their own follies and cry for their own hurts without being swallowed by either. This is the path of the wise fool, a person who knows enough to realize they know very little, and who is happy to simply keep learning. When you can embrace your own foolishness with a smile, you are very close to the heart of the Buddha. You are living with a light touch, moving through the world like a breeze that passes through the trees without getting caught in the branches. Consider the lotus flower, which is one of the most sacred symbols in Buddhist teachings. The lotus begins its life in the dark, murky mud at the bottom of a pond. It has to grow through the water, reaching toward the surface, before it can finally open its beautiful petals in the sun. The mud is not a mistake. It is the source of the flower's nourishment. Without the mud, there would be no lotus. Your past, with all its messiness and confusion, is your mud. It is the very thing that is providing the strength for your soul to grow. Do not be ashamed of where you started. Look at how far you have climbed through the water. Look at how close you are to the light. When we are caught in the grip of self-blame, we tend to see everything in black and white. We think we are either good or bad. But life is lived in the infinite shades of gray in between. Most of our actions are a complex mix of intentions, some skillful and some unskillful. Forgiving yourself is about learning to appreciate the nuances of your own character. It is about recognizing that you can be a kind person who occasionally loses their temper, or a generous person who sometimes feels stingy. These contradictions do not make you a hypocrite, they make you a human being. Embracing the complexity of your own nature is a profound act of honesty that leads to a much more stable and enduring peace. There was a monk who spent many years in solitary retreat, trying to purify his mind of all negative thoughts. He was very successful and felt that he had finally achieved a state of perfect purity. One day, he came down from his mountain to visit a nearby village. As he was walking through the market, someone accidentally bumped into him, spilling a basket of fruit. For a split second, the monk felt a surge of intense anger. He was horrified. He felt that all his years of practice had been a waste. He went to his teacher and confessed his failure. The teacher laughed and said, "The anger was always there, hidden under the surface. Now that it has come out, you can finally deal with it. You should thank the person who bumped into you for showing you the truth." Our mistakes and our reactions are not failures of our practice, they are the practice itself. They are the moments when the truth of our current state of mind is revealed to us. Instead of being discouraged when you see your own flaws, try to be grateful for the clarity. Now you know where the work needs to be done. Now you can bring the light of your awareness to that specific corner of your heart. Forgiving yourself is the process of staying with that work, even when it is difficult, and even when you feel like you are starting over for the 100th time. There is no end to the path of self-discovery, there is only the continuous unfolding of your own potential. Imagine that your life is like a long piece of music. There will be some notes that are played out of tune, some rhythms that are missed, and some passages that feel dissonant. But the music goes on. A single wrong note does not ruin the entire symphony. In fact, some of the most beautiful music in the world uses dissonance to create a sense of tension and resolution. Your life's music is the same. The wrong notes of your past are part of the overall composition. They add a sense of drama and depth that would not be there otherwise. Learn to listen to the whole piece, not just the parts that you don't like. When you can hear the beauty of the entire symphony, you will find it much easier to forgive the occasional missed beat. We often feel that we need to be forgiven by others before we can forgive ourselves. We wait for a word of kindness or a gesture of reconciliation from someone we have hurt. While external forgiveness is a beautiful thing, it is not a requirement for your internal peace. You cannot control the hearts of others, but you have absolute authority over your own. You can decide to forgive yourself even if the rest of the world is still holding a grudge. This is not about being arrogant or ignoring the feelings of others, it is about taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being. Your heart is your own domain, and you are the only one who can grant yourself the freedom to move forward. Think about the way a river flows around an island. The water doesn't stop and try to push the island out of the way. It doesn't get angry at the island for being in its path. It simply divides, flows around both sides, and joins back together on the other side. The island is just part of the river's journey. Your past mistakes are like those islands. They are solid, they are there, and you can't just wish them away. But you can choose how you flow around them. You can let the water of your life become stagnant and blocked by the island, or you can keep moving, letting the current of your intentions carry you toward the vast ocean of peace that lies ahead. In the silence of your heart, there is a voice that is always whispering of your worthiness. It is a quiet voice, often drowned out by the loud shouts of your internal critic. But it is there. It is the voice of your own Buddha nature, the part of you that is already enlightened and already at peace. To forgive yourself is to turn down the volume of the critic and turn up the volume of that quiet voice. It is a process of learning to listen to the truth of who you are, rather than the lies that fear and guilt try to tell you. You are more than your history. You are more than your mistakes. You are a radiant being of light, and you are always, always enough. There was a group of students who were once discussing the meaning of compassion. One student said it was about helping the poor. Another said it was about being kind to animals. The master, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. Compassion, he said, is the ability to look into a mirror and not want to break it. This is perhaps the most difficult form of compassion there is. It is easy to feel sorry for others, but it is much harder to feel a genuine, loving kindness for ourselves when we know all of our own secrets and shortcomings. Yet, this is the very foundation of the spiritual path. Without self-compassion, our compassion for others is often just a way to avoid looking at our own pain. When we forgive ourselves, we are essentially saying yes to life. We are saying that despite everything, we believe that life is worth living and that we are worth being a part of it. This yes is a powerful affirmation that can change the entire chemistry of our being. It releases the tension in our muscles, the clouds in our minds, and the weight in our hearts. It is the beginning of a true homecoming, where we no longer feel like strangers in our own skin. We can finally sit down, take a deep breath, and feel at home in the world. This is the peace that passes all understanding, the peace that comes from knowing that you are loved, forgiven, and whole, just as you are. As you continue on your journey, carry this feeling of gentle self-acceptance with you. Let it be like a warm cloak that protects you from the cold winds of judgment. When you stumble, as we all do, remember to pick yourself up with the same kindness you would show a dear friend. The path is long, but it is also beautiful, and every step taken in the spirit of forgiveness is a step toward the light. You are not alone on this road. We are all walking together, each of us learning to be a little kinder to ourselves and to one another. And in that shared kindness, we find the true meaning of being human, the true beauty of the path, and the ultimate power of a heart that has learned to set itself free from the shadows of the past. The way a candle flame remains steady even in a drafty room is much like a heart that has found its center through self-forgiveness. It does not mean the wind stops blowing, but that the flame has found a way to exist with the wind without being extinguished. We often think that peace is the absence of conflict, but true peace is the ability to remain still in the midst of it. When you stop being at war with your own history, you discover a reservoir of strength that was previously exhausted by the constant battle of self-justification. You no longer need to prove your worth to anyone, not even to yourself, because you have touched the reality of your own innate goodness which exists independently of your actions. There is an old story of a traveler who came across a group of people trying to clean a large, dusty mirror with muddy water. The more they scrubbed, the more streaked and clouded the mirror became. They were shouting at the mirror, blaming it for being stubborn and dirty. The traveler watched for a while and then suggested that they stop scrubbing and simply let the mud settle at the bottom of the bucket. Once the water became clear, they could use a soft, clean cloth to gently wipe away the dust. This is exactly how we treat our own minds when we are filled with regret. We try to fix our guilt by thinking about it more, by analyzing it, and by beating ourselves up, but this is just like scrubbing with muddy water. we only make the cloudiness worse. The act of forgiveness is the act of letting the water be still. When the water of your mind is still, the mud of your mistakes naturally sinks to the bottom. It does not disappear, but it no longer clouds your vision. You can see the mirror clearly, and you can see that the dust was only on the surface, never a part of the glass itself. This clarity allows you to walk through the world with a sense of transparency. You have nothing to hide because you have already seen the worst of yourself and decided to meet it with kindness. This transparency is incredibly attractive to others. People feel safe around someone who is honest about their own imperfections. Your willingness to be human becomes a bridge that allows others to cross over from their own islands of isolation and shame. In the gardens of ancient temples, there were often stone basins filled with water where visitors would wash their hands and mouths before entering the sacred space. This was not just a physical cleaning, but a symbolic gesture of leaving the dust of the world behind. You can create a similar ritual in your own heart. Every morning, as you take your first conscious breath, imagine you are washing away the regrets of the yesterday. You are not ignoring what happened, but you are choosing not to carry the dust into the sanctuary of the new day. Each day is a sacred space, a fresh opportunity to practice being the person you wish to be. If you spend the morning mourning the sunset of yesterday, you will miss the sunrise that is happening right in front of you. Think about the vast intelligence that governs the growth of a forest. When a tree falls, it does not signify the end of the forest. Instead, the fallen tree becomes a nurse log, providing nutrients and shelter for thousands of new life forms. Moss grows on its bark, seedlings take root in its decaying wood, and small creatures find a home in its hollows. Your greatest failures can become the nurse logs of your spiritual life. The very things that felt like a collapse can provide the rich, fertile ground for your most profound growth. Some of the most compassionate people in the world are those who have known the deepest shame, for they have learned that no one is beyond the reach of a helping hand. Your fallen moments are not wastes of time, they are the recycling of your soul into something more useful and more beautiful. There was a student who was very proud of his calligraphy. He spent hours practicing every day, but he was always terrified of making a single mistake. One day, his brush slipped, and a large blot of ink fell onto the center of his masterpiece. He was ready to tear the paper into pieces when his teacher walked in. The teacher took the brush and, with a few quick strokes, turned the ink blot into a beautiful, soaring mountain in the background of the scene. The student realized that the mistake was not the problem was his inability to see the potential within the mistake. Forgiving yourself is the art of becoming the master of your own ink blots. It is the ability to look at a mess and see a mountain. The path of the Buddha is often described as a path of liberation, but we must ask ourselves what we are being liberated from. Most often, we are being liberated from the cages we have built for ourselves. These cages are made of shoulds and musts, of rigid definitions of right and wrong that leave no room for the complexity of human life. When you forgive yourself, you are reaching through the bars and finding that the door was never locked. You were the one holding the door shut with the strength of your own guilt. The moment you let go of the handle, the door swings open, and you can walk out into the vast, open field of the present moment. The sky is just as blue outside the cage as it was inside, but now you have the space to stretch your wings and fly. We often believe that by being hard on ourselves, we are preventing future mistakes. We think that the pain of self-criticism will act as a deterrent. But research and ancient wisdom both show that the opposite is true. When we are filled with self-hatred, We are more likely to act out in unskillful ways because we feel we have nothing to lose. We think, I am already a bad person, so what does it matter if I make another mistake? Forgiveness, on the other hand, restores our sense of self-worth. When you feel that you are inherently good and valuable, you naturally want to protect that goodness. You act with more care and more awareness because you respect yourself. Kindness is a far more powerful motivator than cruelty, both in the world and in the privacy of your own mind. Imagine you are a weaver working on a grand tapestry that represents your life. You have many different colors of thread, bright silks of joy, sturdy wools of discipline, and dark, somber threads of sorrow and regret. A truly beautiful tapestry needs all of these colors. If it were only made of bright silk, it would be gaudy and thin. The dark threads provide the depth, the shadow, and the contrast that allow the bright colors to truly shine. When you look at a dark thread in your life, do not try to pull it out. Instead, see how it interacts with the colors around it. See how it makes the gold of your compassion look even more brilliant. Your life is a work of art in progress, and every thread has its place in the final design. There was once a monk who was very skilled at gardening. He grew the most beautiful flowers in the province, but he also allowed the weeds to grow among them. When people asked why he didn't pull the weeds, he said, "The weeds remind me that the soil is healthy. If the soil can support the weeds, it can support the flowers. And besides, who am I to decide what is a weed and what is a flower? Today's weed might be tomorrow's medicine." This is a beautiful way to look at our own thoughts and behaviors. The parts of ourselves that we label as weeds, our jealousy, our anger, our mistakes, are often just signs of a very fertile and active mind. Instead of trying to rip them out with violence, we can learn to understand them. We can see what they are trying to tell us about our needs and our fears. In the light of that understanding, the weeds often transform into something much more helpful. Self-forgiveness is not about making excuses. It is about taking a higher level of responsibility. When you make an excuse, you are trying to avoid the truth. When you forgive yourself, you are looking the truth directly in the eye and saying, "Yes, this happened. I am responsible for it. And I am also responsible for not letting it destroy my capacity to do good in the future." This is the responsibility of a mature spiritual warrior. It requires more courage to be kind to yourself than to be mean, because kindness requires you to stay vulnerable and open, while meanness allows you to hide behind a wall of anger. Choose the path of the warrior. Stay open, stay honest, and stay kind. Think of a mother bird feeding her young. She doesn't judge the chicks for being hungry or for being unable to fly. She simply does what is needed in the moment, over and over again, with tireless patience. You must learn to be that mother bird for your own soul. Your soul is often hungry for peace, for understanding, and for love. Instead of judging that hunger, just feed it. Give it the nourishment of a kind thought. Give it the shelter of a quiet moment. The more you nurture your own inner life, the more you will find that the old wounds begin to heal on their own. Healing is a natural process that happens when the right conditions are provided. Your job is not to do the healing, but to provide the conditions of safety and compassion that allow healing to occur. There is a story of two friends walking through the desert. At one point in the journey, they had an argument, and one friend slapped the other in the face. The one who was slapped was hurt, but without saying anything, he wrote in the sand, "Today my best friend slapped me in the face." They kept on walking until they found an oasis, where they decided to take a bath. The one who had been slapped got stuck in the mire and started drowning, but the friend saved him. After he recovered from the near drowning, he carved on a stone, "Today my best friend saved my life." The friend who had slapped and saved his best friend asked him, "After I hurt you, you wrote in the sand and now, you write on a stone, why?" The other friend replied, "When someone hurts us, we should write it down in sand where winds of forgiveness can erase it away. But, when someone does something good for us, we must engrave it in stone where no wind can ever erase it." Most of us do the exact opposite. We engrave our mistakes in stone and write our successes in the sand. We remember every slight, every failure, and every embarrassing moment as if they were carved into our very bones, while our moments of kindness and growth are quickly forgotten like footprints in the wind. To forgive yourself is to learn the art of writing on sand. It is to recognize that your mistakes are temporary and fluid. They do not define the landscape of your life unless you insist on carving them into the rock. Start today by looking for the engravings in your mind. Take the chisel of your compassion and begin to smooth them over. Turn the stone back into sand, and let the winds of the present moment carry the dust away. The concept of letting go is often misunderstood as an act of will, something we have to force ourselves to do. But true letting go is more like the falling of a ripe fruit from a tree. When the fruit is ready, it simply lets go of the branch because it is no longer needed. The tree doesn't have to push the fruit doesn't have to jump. It is a natural transition. Forgiveness happens when you have fully ripened in your understanding of a situation. When you have seen the pain, understood the causes, and felt the consequences, you eventually realize that holding on to the regret is simply no longer serving any purpose. It has become a burden that is preventing you from growing. At that moment, the regret falls away naturally, and you are left standing in the sunlight, feeling lighter and more free. Everything in the universe is in a constant state of exchange. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. The trees do the opposite. The rain falls into the ocean, and the sun evaporates the water back into the clouds. Nothing is held onto forever. Your emotions and your memories are also part of this exchange. You are meant to experience them, learn from them, and then release them back into the flow of life. When you try to hold on to a particular memory or a particular feeling of guilt, you are interrupting the natural flow. You are creating a blockage in your own energy. Forgiving yourself is simply restoring the flow. It is allowing the exchange to continue, trusting that as you release the old, new, and better things will naturally come to take their place. There was a famous potter who was known for making perfectly symmetrical vases. One day, his kiln malfunctioned, and all of the vases came out slightly warped and distorted. He was about to throw them all away when he noticed that each one had a unique, organic shape that felt much more alive than his perfect vases. He decided to sell them anyway, calling them the breath of the fire. They became his most popular works because people could see the human element and the unpredictability of life in them. Your life is the breath of the fire. The distortions and the warps caused by your mistakes are what make you a unique and living being. A perfect person would be like a plastic flower, unchanging, but without scent or life. Embrace your warps. They are the evidence that you have been through the fire and survived. When we talk about forgiving ourselves, we are also talking about forgiving the world. We often blame ourselves for things that were actually the result of the complex, often broken systems we live in. We blame ourselves for not being happy in a world that is often full of suffering, or for not being successful in a system that is designed for only a few to win. When you realize that you are a part of a much larger web of causes and conditions, you can start to release the personal weight of your struggles. You can see that your failure was often just a reflection of the challenges of the human condition. This doesn't mean you stop trying to be better, but it means you stop taking the world's problems as your personal defects. You become a kinder, more patient participant in the grand drama of life. Imagine you are sitting by a clear mountain stream. The water is constantly moving, flowing over rocks and around branches. If you drop a handful of dirt into the stream, the water becomes cloudy for a moment, but the current quickly carries the dirt away, and the water becomes clear again. Your consciousness is that stream. Your thoughts of regret are the handfuls of dirt. If you keep dropping dirt into the stream by constantly replaying your mistakes, the water will stay cloudy. But if you stop dropping the dirt, the current of the present moment will naturally clear the water. You don't have to do anything to clean the water, you just have to stop polluting it with the same old thoughts. Trust the current. Trust that the natural state of your mind is clarity and peace. There is a profound beauty in the word tolerance. In engineering, tolerance is the amount of deviation that is allowed in a part before it fails. A bridge or a building must have a certain amount of tolerance to withstand the wind and the weight of traffic. A person must also have a high level of internal tolerance. You must allow yourself the space to deviate from your ideals without your whole system breaking down. If you have zero tolerance for your own mistakes, you will be brittle and easily broken by the stresses of life. Forgiving yourself is the process of increasing your internal tolerance. It is building a heart that is strong enough to flex and bend when things go wrong, rather than snapping under the pressure of its own expectations. Consider the life of a great explorer. An explorer does not expect every path to lead to a treasure. They know that they will take many wrong turns, get lost in the woods, and face many dead ends. These mistakes are not seen as failures, but as part of the exploration. They are the ways the explorer learns the map of the territory. You are an explorer of your own life. Every mistake you have made has given you valuable information about your own heart and about the way the world works. You now have a much better map than you did 10 years ago. Instead of being angry about the wrong turns, be grateful for the knowledge they provided. You are now better equipped to find the paths that lead to true happiness and peace. Sometimes we feel that our mistakes have hurt others so deeply that we can never be forgiven. We carry the weight of their pain as if it were our own. But carrying that weight does not heal their wounds. In fact, if you are stuck in your own guilt, you are unable to be a source of light and healing for those you have hurt. The best way to atone for a mistake is to become a person who is so full of love and presence that you naturally bring peace to everyone you meet. This is the true meaning of turning a new leaf. You don't just stop doing the bad thing, you become a source of good things. Your transformation becomes a gift to the world, a way of balancing the scales through the power of your current character. There was a woman who spent her whole life feeling like she was too much, too loud, too emotional, too demanding. She tried to shrink herself to fit into the boxes that others had made for her, but she always failed, and she always felt guilty for her failure. One day, she went to the ocean and watched the waves crashing against the shore. She realized that the ocean never tries to be less. It is vast, powerful, and sometimes very loud, and that is exactly why it is so beautiful. She realized that her too muchness was simply her own vastness trying to express itself. She forgave herself for not being able to fit into a small box. She decided to be like the ocean, to be as large and as deep as she truly was, and to trust that there would be people who loved her for her scale, not her smallness. You are also vast. You are an ocean of potential, and you should never apologize for the size of your waves. Your mistakes are often just the result of you trying to navigate your own power without a clear map. As you grow in wisdom, you will learn to use that power with more skill and more grace, but do not hate the power itself. And do not hate yourself for the times the waves got a bit out of control. The ocean is still the ocean, even after a storm. The water is still pure, even if it has some sand stirred up in it. Take a deep breath and feel the vastness of your own being. There is plenty of room in that vastness for everything that has happened, and there is even more room for everything that is yet to come. As we sit together in this shared space of reflection, let us acknowledge that the journey of self-forgiveness is a sacred one. It is the journey from the head to the heart, from the past to the present, and from fear to love. It is the most important work you will ever do, because everything else in your life flows from the relationship you have with yourself. If that relationship is based on judgment and shame, your life will feel like a struggle. If that relationship is based on forgiveness and compassion, your life will feel like a gift. You have the power to choose which one it will be. You have the power to start right now, in this very moment, with this very breath. Imagine that you are holding a small, delicate bird in your hands. You wouldn't squeeze it, and you wouldn't throw it. You would hold it with the utmost gentleness, feeling its heartbeat and its warmth. Your soul is that bird. Treat it with that same exquisite care. When it is afraid, comfort it. When it is tired, let it rest. When it makes a mistake, don't punish it, just help it find its balance again. You are the guardian of your own spirit, and your primary duty is to be a kind and loving protector. When you fulfill this duty, you find that the world around you begins to reflect that same kindness and love. The internal peace you create becomes a sanctuary for others, a place where they too can find the courage to let go of their burdens. The story of your life is still being written. The chapters that contain your mistakes are already finished, and they cannot be erased. But they do not have to determine the ending of the book. You are the author, and you have a fresh pen and a clean page in front of you today. What will you write next? Will it be a story of endless regret, or will it be a story of redemption, growth, and joy? The choice is entirely yours. Do not let the ink of the past spill over into the beauty of the future. Keep your pages clean, and write with a heart that is full of hope. The world is waiting to read the beautiful things you have yet to say and the wonderful things you have yet to do. Think of the sound of a bell after it has been struck. The sound is clear and resonant at first, then it gradually fades into silence. Our actions are like the strike of the bell, and our memories are like the fading sound. Eventually, every sound must return to the silence from which it came. This silence is the fundamental reality of our existence. It is a silence that is full of peace, full of potential, and completely free from judgment. When you forgive yourself, you are allowing the sound of your past to finally fade into that silence. You are returning to the quiet center of your being, where everything is already forgiven and everything is already whole. Rest in that silence for a moment. Feel its depth and its stillness. This is who you truly are. The power of forgiving yourself is not a magic trick that makes all your problems disappear. It is a shift in perspective that allows you to face your problems with a clear mind and a steady heart. It is the realization that you are not broken, you are simply human. And being human is a wonderful, difficult, and incredibly precious experience. Do not waste another minute of this precious life in the prison of self-reproach. The keys are in your hand, and the door is wide open. Take a step forward into the light. The universe is cheering for you, the trees are waving you on, and the river is singing your name. You are home, you are safe, and you are deeply, profoundly loved by the very ground you walk upon. Sometimes we feel like a traveler who has been walking for so long in the rain that we have forgotten the feeling of dry clothes and a warm fire. We begin to think that the dampness is part of our skin, that the shivering is part of our nature. But the sun always exists behind the clouds, waiting for the moment the sky decides to part. Forgiving yourself is that parting of the clouds. It is the moment you realize the sun never actually left you, it was only your vision that was obscured. You can stop apologizing for the rain. You can stop feeling guilty for the weather of your life. Just stand still for a moment and let the warmth find you. In the chronicles of ancient wisdom, there is a story of a master who lived in a small hut by a waterfall. One day, a visitor came to him, weeping because he had lost his temper and said terrible things to his family. The visitor felt that his heart was permanently stained. The master took a glass of clear water from the waterfall and dropped a pinch of salt into it. He asked the visitor to taste it, and the visitor made a face, saying it was too bitter to drink. The master then took the visitor to the large pool at the base of the waterfall and threw a whole handful of salt into the churning white water. He asked the visitor to taste the pool. The visitor drank and smiled, saying the water was fresh and sweet. The master explained that the salt of our mistakes is always the same amount, but the bitterness depends on the size of the vessel that holds it. If you have a small, narrow heart, every mistake will make you bitter. If you expand your heart like the great pool, even a handful of salt cannot change its purity. Expansion is the secret to a peaceful life. When you widen the boundaries of your compassion to include yourself, you are creating a vast reservoir that can absorb the shocks and errors of human existence without becoming toxic. You become like the ocean, which receives the muddy rivers from every continent yet remains blue and deep. This is not a process of becoming indifferent, but of becoming immense. The more immense you are, the less power any single event has to define you. You can look at a mistake and see it as a single wave in a vast sea. It rises, it crashes, and then it dissolves back into the infinite depth. The wave is not the sea, and your mistakes are not your soul. There was a woman who was a very gifted gardener, but she had one rose bush that never seemed to bloom. She spent months fertilizing it, pruning it, and worrying over it, but the buds always withered before they opened. She felt like a failure as a gardener. One day, she stopped trying to force the rose to bloom and simply sat on the bench next to it, enjoying the sunlight on her own face. She noticed that even without flowers, the leaves of the bush were a vibrant, healthy green, and they provided a perfect resting place for a small ladybug. She realized that she had been so focused on what the bush should be doing that she had failed to appreciate what it was already providing. She forgave herself for her expectations. The moment she let go of her frustration, she felt a deep connection to the plant. Interestingly, by the next season, the rose bush bloomed more beautifully than any other in her garden. We often wither our own potential by the sheer force of our demands for perfection. We are so busy scolding ourselves for not blooming on schedule that we forget to nourish the roots. The roots of your being are fed by kindness, not by criticism. When you create an internal environment of safety and acceptance, your natural talents and virtues will emerge on their own, in their own time. You cannot scream at a flower to make it grow faster, and you cannot shame yourself into becoming a better person. Growth is a slow, quiet, and mysterious process that happens in the dark of the soil. Trust the darkness. Trust the timing of your own life. You are exactly where you need to be to learn the lesson you are currently facing. Imagine you are a musician who has been practicing a very difficult piece of music for many years. One day, you realize that you have been playing one particular note wrong the entire time. You could spend the rest of your life being angry at yourself for that one note, or you could simply correct the finger placement and keep playing. The beauty of the music is found in the correction as much as in the melody. In fact, a musician who has never made a mistake never truly understands the instrument. It is through the struggle, the errors, and the corrections that you develop a true mastery of the soul. Your life is not a performance where you are being graded, it is a rehearsal that never ends. Every day is a chance to play the song a little better, with a little more heart and a little less fear. There is a beautiful concept in the forest traditions that every tree in the woods is helping every other tree. They share nutrients through their roots, they warn each other of pests through chemical signals in the air, and they provide shade for the younger saplings. No tree is trying to be better than the others, and no tree is ashamed of being smaller or leaning to one side. They simply exist together in a state of mutual support. We are meant to live this way too. When you forgive yourself, you are making it easier for everyone else in your forest to forgive themselves. You are contributing to a culture of grace rather than a culture of judgment. Your self-compassion is a gift to your children, your friends, and even to the strangers you pass on the street. Consider the nature of a mirror. A mirror does not hold on to the images that pass before it. If an angry person stands in front of the mirror reflects anger. If a joyful person stands there, it reflects joy. But the moment the person walks away, the mirror is clear again. It does not remember the anger, and it does not feel proud of the joy. It simply remains in its natural state of clarity. Your mind is like that mirror. Your thoughts and actions are the images passing by. The problem is that we try to grab the images and glue them onto the glass. We walk around with a mirror covered in old, faded photographs of our past, and then we wonder why we can't see the present clearly. Forgiving yourself is the act of peeling off those old photos and letting the glass be clean. There was a group of weavers who were creating a silk robe for a great king. One of the weavers accidentally used a thread that was a slightly different shade of gold. She was terrified that the king would notice and punish her. She spent the whole night trying to unpick the stitches, but she only made the fabric rougher. The next morning, the master weaver looked at her work and smiled. He took some silver thread and wove a delicate pattern of stars around the mistake, making the different shade of gold look like a deliberate glow. The king was so impressed by the stars that he declared it the most beautiful robe he had ever seen. Your life is that silk robe. Your wrong threads are the very places where the stars of your wisdom can be woven. Do not try to unpick the past. Instead, look for the silver thread of your current awareness and use it to create something magical. We often feel that our mistakes have made us less than others. We look at people who seem to have it all together and we feel a deep sense of envy and shame. But you are only seeing the outside of their robe. You don't see the patches, the silver threads, or the hidden tears on the inside. Every single person you meet is a mosaic of broken pieces held together by the glue of their own resilience. This is the shared secret of humanity. There is no one who is not broken in some way, and there is no one who does not need forgiveness. When you realize this, the walls of comparison fall away. You no longer need to be better than anyone else, you only need to be kind to the person you are. Think about the way a mountain stream carries a leaf. The leaf doesn't try to steer itself. It doesn't get upset when it gets caught in an eddy or pushed against a rock. It simply rides the water, trusting the flow to take it where it needs to go. Forgiveness is that kind of trust. It is trusting that your life has a direction and a purpose, even when you feel like you are spinning in circles. The rocks and the eddies are not obstacles to the journey, they are part of the journey. They provide the texture and the movement that make the stream alive. Without them, the water would be stagnant and dull. Embrace the rocks of your past as the things that have given your life its unique rhythm and its specific beauty. There was a man who lived in a house with a very old, leaky roof. Every time it rained, he had to put buckets all over the floor to catch the water. He hated the roof and spent all his time complaining about how it was ruining his life. One night, during a particularly heavy storm, he ran out of buckets. He sat in the middle of his living room, completely drenched and miserable. As he looked up at the holes in the roof, he suddenly saw the moon shining through the clouds. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, and he realized he never would have seen it if his roof had been perfect. He didn't stop wanting to fix the roof, but he stopped hating the holes. He realized that even in the middle of a mess, there is always a way for the light to get in. Your mistakes are the holes in your roof. They are the places where you are most vulnerable, but they are also the places where you can see the stars. A person who is perfectly sealed and protected often has a very dark and lonely interior. It is through our cracks and our leaks that we connect with the infinite. Forgiving yourself is not about fixing every hole until you are a solid, impenetrable box. It is about learning to appreciate the light that comes through the gaps. It is about realizing that your vulnerability is your greatest strength, because it is what allows you to be touched by the beauty of the world. Imagine that you are holding a very old, precious book. The pages are yellowed, some of the edges are torn, and there are notes written in the margins by people who owned the book before you. You wouldn't throw the book away because it isn't new. You would treasure it precisely because of its history and the stories it tells. Your life is that book. You are the current owner, and you are adding your own notes and your own tears to the pages. Some of the chapters you have written might be difficult to read, but they are part of the volume. You cannot have the ending without the beginning and the middle. Forgive yourself for the messy handwriting and the torn pages. They are the evidence that the book has been loved and used. The path of the heart is a path of return. We spend so much of our lives running away from ourselves, trying to be someone else, or trying to hide what we have done. But no matter how far you run, you are always right here. Forgiving yourself is the moment you stop running. It is the moment you turn around, open your arms, and welcome yourself back. It is the most profound homecoming you will ever experience. You don't need a map, and you don't need a key. You just need the willingness to say, I am here, and I am okay. In that simple acceptance, all the noise of the world fades away, and you are left with the quiet, steady beating of your own heart. There was a teacher who told his students that the secret to a happy life was to carry no dead bodies. He explained that every time we hold on to a grudge or a regret, we are like someone carrying a heavy corpse on their back. It is cold, it smells bad, and it prevents us from moving freely. Most of us are walking around with a whole graveyard on our shoulders, and then we wonder why we are so tired. Forgiving yourself is the act of putting the dead bodies down. It is letting the past be dead so that the present can be alive. You don't have to carry the weight anymore. You can leave it at the side of the road and walk away into the fresh air of the morning. Everything in nature is constantly being recycled. A fallen leaf becomes the soil that feeds the next generation of flowers. The water you drink today was once part of an ancient ocean. Nothing is ever lost, it is only transformed. Your mistakes are also subject to this law of transformation. You can take the waste of your past and turn it into the compost for your future. The pain you have felt can become the sensitivity you use to help others. The shame you have carried can become the humility that makes you a wise teacher. Nothing is wasted if you are willing to let it be transformed by the power of your own forgiveness. Imagine you are standing in a large, empty hall with a high ceiling. Every time you speak a word of self-criticism, it echoes and bounces off the walls, getting louder and louder until it is all you can hear. But if you speak a word of kindness, that too will echo. The world is that hall. The energy you put out is the energy that comes back to you. If you want to live in a world that is forgiving and kind, you must first create that world within yourself. You must be the first person to offer a hand of friendship to your own soul. When you do this, you will find that the echoes of the world begin to change. You will start to hear the kindness in others, the beauty in the silence, and the music in the wind. There was once a king who wanted to find the most peaceful painting in the world. He offered a great reward to any artist who could capture true peace. Many artists brought paintings of quiet lakes, sleepy villages, and beautiful sunsets. But the king chose a painting of a wild, stormy waterfall. In the middle of the churning foam and the crashing water, there was a tiny bush growing out of a crack in a rock. On that bush, a small bird had built a nest and was sitting peacefully on her eggs, completely undisturbed by the roar of the water around her. The king said, "This is true peace. Peace is not being in a place where there is no noise or trouble. Peace is being in the middle of those things and still having a calm heart." Self-forgiveness is the nest you build in the middle of the storm of your life. The storm may continue to roar, the water may continue to crash, but inside your heart, you are sitting on your eggs of hope and possibility. You are not waiting for the storm to end before you decide to be at peace. You are being at peace right now, in the middle of everything. This is a much more powerful and stable kind of peace than anything you can find by running away. It is a peace that belongs to you, and it is a peace that no one can take away. As you breathe in, feel the life that is flowing through you. As you breathe out, release the tension that you have been holding in your shoulders and your jaw. You are a miracle of existence, a complex and beautiful being who is doing the best they can. You are allowed to be happy. You are allowed to be free. You are allowed to forgive yourself for every single thing that has ever happened. The universe is not keeping score. The only one who is holding on to the debt is you, and you are also the one who has the power to cancel it. Do it today. Do it right now. Take a deep breath and say to yourself, "I am forgiven. I am at peace. I am home." The light of the sun does not ask for permission to shine, and it does not judge the things it touches. It shines on the beautiful flower and the pile of trash with the same warmth and the same intensity. Be like the sun for your own life. Let your awareness shine on everything you have done, without judgment and without preference. When you look at your past in the light of pure awareness, you see that it is all just part of the dance. There is nothing to be ashamed of, and there is nothing to hide. You are a radiant being, and your light is needed in the world. Do not let the shadows of the past dim your brilliance. Shine brightly, shine kindly, and shine with the power of a heart that has finally learned to love itself without any reservations. This love is the quietest yet most powerful force in the universe, a silent hum that vibrates beneath the surface of every living cell. When you tap into it, you are not just healing yourself, you are tapping into the source of life itself. We often imagine that forgiveness is a destination we reach after a long and grueling hike, but in reality, it is the very ground we walk upon once we decide to stop digging holes for ourselves to fall into. The earth beneath your feet does not ask for your credentials or a list of your past virtues before it decides to support your weight. It simply holds you. You can learn to hold yourself with that same uncomplicated stability, letting the frantic energy of self-doubt settle like dust after a long wind. In the stories of old, there was a master who spent his days sitting by a bridge, watching people cross from one side of a great river to the other. One traveler stopped and asked the master how he could tell who among the crowd was truly free. The master pointed to a woman carrying a heavy basket of stones on her head. He then pointed to a man who was walking with nothing but a small flute in his hand. The master said that both were carrying their past, but the man had turned his stones into music. Every hole in the flute was a place where he had once felt a void, and every breath he blew into it turned that void into a melody that lifted the spirits of everyone who heard it. Forgiving yourself is the process of carving holes into your heavy stones until they become a flute. Your pain does not have to be a weight, it can be the very instrument that creates the unique song of your life. Every time you choose to be kind to yourself after a moment of failure, you are creating a new neural pathway, a new trail in the forest of your mind. At first, the trail is overgrown and difficult to see, and you might find yourself slipping back onto the old, well-worn highway of self-criticism. But with every step of compassion, the path becomes clearer and easier to follow. Eventually, it becomes your natural way of being. You find that you no longer have to remind yourself to be gentle, the gentleness is simply there, waiting for you like a loyal friend. This internal shift is the true meaning of transformation. You are not changing what happened in the past, but you are changing the way the past lives within you today. Think about a piece of coal that is subjected to immense pressure and heat deep within the earth. Over millions of years, that coal is not destroyed by the pressure, it is transformed into a diamond. Your soul is currently in that state of transformation. The pressures of your life, the heat of your regrets, and the weight of your responsibilities are the very conditions required for your brilliance to emerge. If you were never pressed, you would never shine. Forgiving yourself is the act of accepting the pressure as part of the process. It is the realization that you are not being punished by life, you are being polished by it. The facets of your character that catch the light most beautifully are often the ones that were carved by your most difficult experiences. There was a traveler who arrived at a mountain peak and found an old woman sitting there, looking out over the clouds. He asked her if she had any regrets about the long climb. She smiled and said that every time she had tripped, she had found a beautiful flower or a unique stone that she wouldn't have seen if she had been walking perfectly. She said that her stumbles were her best teachers because they forced her to look at the ground and appreciate the small details of the journey. We are often so focused on the peak that we hate ourselves for any delay or any deviation. But the peak is just a point in space, the journey is where the life happens. Forgive yourself for your stumbles, for they have given you a perspective that a perfect climber will never know. Consider the nature of a cloud. It is constantly changing shape, merging with other clouds, and eventually turning into rain that feeds the earth. It does not try to hold on to its form, and it does not feel guilty when it disappears. It is simply a temporary manifestation of the water cycle. You are a temporary manifestation of the flow of consciousness. Your thoughts of, I am this, or, I did that, are just shapes in the sky. When you realize that the observer of the thoughts is not the thoughts themselves, you find a profound sense of relief. You are the space in which the clouds move, not the clouds. The space is always pure, always open, and always vast enough to hold everything without being changed by it. Imagine a large, ancient tree that has survived many fires. Its bark is charred and blackened in places, and some of its branches are missing. Yet, every spring, it still puts out fresh green leaves. It doesn't spend its time wishing the fire hadn't happened or feeling ashamed of its blackened trunk. It uses the ash from the fire as nutrients for its roots. It understands that the fire is now part of its strength. To forgive yourself is to use the ash of your past to feed your future. Your experiences of anger, greed, or confusion can become the very soil from which your patience, generosity, and clarity grow. Nothing in your life is a mistake if it contributes to your awakening. There was once a king who was so obsessed with his own dignity that he could never admit to making a mistake. He lived in a constant state of tension, always watching his words and his actions to ensure he appeared perfect. He was respected, but he was also very lonely, because no one could ever get close to a man who was a statue. One day, he met a wandering beggar who laughed at everything, including his own rags and his own hunger. The king asked the beggar how he could be so happy when he had nothing. The beggar replied that he was happy because he had nothing to hide. He was a fool, and he knew he was a fool, and that knowledge made him the freest man in the kingdom. The king realized that his dignity was actually his prison. He took off his crown, sat on the ground with the beggar, and for the first time in his life, he laughed at himself. Forgiving yourself is the act of taking off your own crown. It is the willingness to be a fool in the eyes of your ego. It is the humility to admit that you are learning and that you don't have all the answers. This humility is not a sign of weakness, it is the ultimate form of strength. It is the strength to be real, to be vulnerable, and to be authentic. When you stop trying to be a statue, you can finally start being a human being. You can feel the breeze on your skin and the warmth of a hand in yours. You can participate in the messy, beautiful, and unpredictable dance of life without the fear of making a wrong move. The ocean is the greatest teacher of forgiveness. No matter how much trash is thrown into it, no matter how many storms lash its surface, the deep water remains calm and pure. It has the capacity to dissolve everything and turn it back into its elemental form. Your heart has that same capacity. It is an ocean of awareness that can dissolve the trash of your regrets if you are willing to let it. Do not keep your mistakes in a small, cramped room of your mind where they can fester and rot. Throw them into the ocean of your heart. Let the salt of your tears and the vastness of your compassion break them down until they are no longer recognizable. Let them become part of the great rhythm of the tides. Think about the way a bell rings. The sound comes from the empty space inside the bell, not from the metal itself. If the bell were filled with solid stone, it would only make a dull thud when struck. Our lives are the same. We need the empty space of forgiveness to create a beautiful sound. If we fill our hearts with the solid stones of regret and self-blame, our lives become dull and heavy. Forgiving yourself is the process of emptying the bell. It is removing the solid weights of the past so that your life can once again ring with a clear and resonant tone. The emptier you are of the past, the more you can be filled with the music of the present. Everything in the universe is a gift, even the things that feel like burdens. A heavy stone can be a weapon, or it can be a stepping stone across a river. A fire can burn your house down, or it can keep you warm on a cold night. The meaning of an event is not in the event itself, but in how you use it. Your mistakes are raw material. They are the clay that you can use to sculpt a life of meaning and purpose. When you forgive yourself, you are picking up the clay and deciding to make something beautiful out of it. You are no longer a victim of what happened, you are the creator of what happens next. This shift in perspective is the birth of true freedom. Imagine you are a pilot flying a plane through a thick fog. You cannot see the ground, and you cannot see the stars. All you have are your instruments and your trust in the path. Sometimes, you might veer off course or lose altitude. If you spend all your time screaming at yourself for the error, you will lose control of the plane and crash. But if you calmly acknowledge the error and adjust the controls, you will eventually fly out of the fog and see the clear sky again. Life is often like that fog. We are all flying through it, doing our best to stay on course. Forgiving yourself is the act of adjusting the controls. It is a practical, necessary step to keep the plane in the air. There was a woman who spent years feeling guilty because she hadn't been there for a friend in a time of need. She carried this guilt like a heavy cloak, and it made her withdrawn and fearful of making new friends. One day, she saw a young girl fall down in the street. Without thinking, she ran over, picked the girl up, and comforted her. In that moment of spontaneous kindness, she realized that her capacity to love had never been lost. It had only been hidden. She realized that she didn't need to be perfect to be helpful. She forgave herself for the past by choosing to be present for the now. Every act of kindness you perform today is an act of forgiveness for every time you were unkind in the past. The sun does not wait for the flowers to be perfect before it shines on them. It does not say, "I will only warm the roses that have no thorns." It gives its light freely to everything that exists. You must learn to be your own sun. Shine your awareness on your thorns and your blossoms alike. Your thorns are there to protect you, and your blossoms are there to share your beauty. Both are necessary parts of who you are. When you stop fighting your own nature, you find that you have so much more energy to simply grow. You are a part of the natural world, and you are subject to the same laws of growth, decay, and renewal as everything else. Embrace the cycle. Embrace the change. As we breathe together in this moment, let us remember that we are all interconnected. Your self-forgiveness is not just a personal matter, it is a service to the world. A person who is at peace with themselves is a person who brings peace to others. When you stop judging yourself, you naturally stop judging the people around you. You become a source of comfort and a beacon of hope. You show the world that it is possible to move through the fire and come out on the other side, not just survived, but transformed. Your life becomes a living testimony to the power of the heart to heal itself and to thrive. The silence that follows a great piece of music is not empty, it is full of the resonance of the notes that were just played. Your life is that piece of music, and your moments of quiet reflection are the silence that follows. Let the music of your past, the highs and the lows, the harmonies and the dissonances, resonate within you without judgment. Listen to the entire symphony of your existence. See how every note was necessary to create the unique melody that is you. You are a masterpiece in progress, a work of art that is being created with every breath and every choice. Trust the process. Trust the artist. Trust the love that is the foundation of everything. There is a place within you that has never been hurt, never been ashamed, and never been afraid. This is your true home, the center of your being where the light is always shining. Forgiving yourself is the journey of returning to this center. It is walking past the barking dogs of your memories and the dark shadows of your fears until you reach the threshold of your own heart. When you step inside, you find that the fire is already lit and the table is already set. You are the guest of honor at your own banquet. Sit down, eat, and be at peace. You have traveled far, and you have learned much. Now, it is time to rest. Every day is a new birth. When you wake up, you are literally a new person with a new set of possibilities. The person who went to sleep last night is gone, and the person who made mistakes years ago is even further away. Do not drag the corpses of your old selves into your new life. Let them stay in the past where they belong. Give yourself the gift of a fresh start every single morning. Look in the mirror and say, "Welcome back. I am happy to see you. Let's see what we can create together today." This simple act of welcoming yourself is the most powerful prayer you can ever offer. It is an acknowledgement of the miracle of life and the infinite capacity of the soul to begin again. Imagine a river that has been polluted by a factory for many years. People might think the river is dead. But if the factory stops dumping waste, the river will naturally begin to clean itself. The water flows, the fish return, and the plants grow back on the banks. The river has an innate intelligence that knows how to heal. Your mind is like that river. If you stop the pollution of self-criticism and guilt, your mind will naturally return to its state of clarity and peace. You don't have to make it happen, you just have to stop preventing it from happening. Trust the flow. Trust the life that is within you. You are a living system that is designed for health and for happiness. The power of forgiving yourself is the power of the present moment. In that now, there is no past and there is no future. There is only the sensation of the breath, the sound of the wind, and the feeling of the heart beating. When you are fully present, you are already forgiven, because the you who is present is not the you who made the mistake. The present is a sanctuary where you can always find refuge from the storms of the past. Practice being here, right now, as often as you can. The more you live in the now, the less power the then will have over you. You are a being of the present, and the present is always whole. As you look forward to the days and years ahead, do so with a heart that is open and a spirit that is light. You have everything you need to navigate the journey. You have the wisdom of your mistakes, the strength of your resilience, and the power of your own forgiveness. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are a co-creator of your destiny. Walk with confidence, walk with kindness, and walk with the knowledge that you are never alone. The universe is within you, and you are within the universe. Everything is exactly as it should be, and you are exactly who you are meant to be. The stories of the ancient masters often end with a simple gesture, a smile, a nod, or a quiet walk into the forest. These gestures signify a state of completion, a realization that the search is over and the peace has been found. You are approaching that state of completion. Every word of this sharing has been a step toward your own internal peace. You are the master of your own journey, and you have already found the way home. The door is open, the light is on, and the warmth is waiting for you. Step inside and let the door close gently behind you. The world will still be there tomorrow, but you will be different. You will be free. The ultimate act of forgiveness is to realize that there was never anything to forgive in the first place. This is the highest wisdom of the Buddha. From the perspective of absolute reality, everything is empty of a separate self. There is no I who made a mistake, and there is no other who was hurt. There is only the play of energy, the flow of causes and conditions, and the unfolding of consciousness. When you touch this reality, the very concept of forgiveness dissolves into a vast, oceanic peace. You realize that you were always pure, always perfect, and always a part of the infinite. In this realization, the journey ends, and the life truly begins. You are the light, you are the love, and you are the peace that you have been searching for all along. Breathe it in, feel it in your bones, and let it carry you forward into the beautiful mystery of the unfolding day where the horizon of your spirit meets the vast sky of the universe. When you watch a sunset, you do not find yourself judging the sun for leaving the sky or the clouds for changing their colors from gold to deep purple. You simply witness the transition with a sense of awe and quiet acceptance. Your life is no different than that sunset, a series of beautiful transitions that are all necessary to complete the cycle of the day. Forgiving yourself is the final act of witnessing your own life with that same level of grace. It is the moment you stop trying to hold back the night or hurry the morning, and instead, you find the profound beauty in the twilight where the light and the dark embrace each other without conflict. There was a master who once led his students to a field of wild grass that had been scorched by a recent fire. The ground was black, and the air still carried the scent of smoke. Many of the students felt a sense of sadness, seeing the destruction of what was once a vibrant green meadow. But the master knelt down and pointed to a tiny, bright green shoot pushing through the charred earth. He told them that the fire was not an enemy of the grass, but a purifier. It cleared away the dead, matted layers that were preventing the new seeds from reaching the sunlight. The fire had provided the very minerals the soil needed to become fertile again. Your regrets are the fire that has cleared the path for your new growth. You are that green shoot, and the black earth beneath you is not a sign of your failure, but the evidence of your strength and your readiness to begin again. Every breath you take is a tiny miracle of forgiveness. The body does not hold on to the old air out of a sense of loyalty or fear, it releases it completely to make room for the new. If the body refused to let go, it would suffocate. Your spirit follows the same law. To live fully, you must be willing to exhale the past. You must trust that the universe is an infinite source of fresh air, and that you will never run out of opportunities to start anew. When you breathe with this awareness, you find that the tension in your chest dissolves. You are no longer fighting for air, you are flowing with the rhythm of existence itself. This is the simplest and most profound form of meditation, a constant reminder that you are always being supported and always being renewed. Imagine you are a traveler who has reached the edge of a great, shimmering lake at dawn. The water is so still that it acts as a perfect mirror for the mountains and the trees. You decide to step into the water, and as you do, ripples spread out from your feet, momentarily distorting the reflection. You do not get angry at the ripples, you know they are the natural result of your movement. You also know that if you stand still, the water will eventually return to its state of perfect calm. Your life is the lake, and your actions are the ripples. Sometimes the water is disturbed, but the underlying nature of the lake remains unchanged. Forgiving yourself is the act of standing still and allowing the ripples of your past to settle. It is trusting in the inherent stillness of your own soul. There was once a famous musician who was asked how he dealt with the pressure of performing in front of thousands of people. He replied that he never focused on the notes he had already played, whether they were right or wrong. He said that if he spent even a second thinking about a missed note, he would miss the next 10 notes. He lived entirely in the sound he was making at that exact moment. He understood that music only exists in the present. If you are living in your past mistakes, you are missing the music of your current life. You are playing a song of regret while the universe is trying to sing a song of joy through you. Put down the instrument of your guilt and pick up the instrument of your presence. Let the past notes fade into the silence where they belong, and focus all your love on the note you are playing right now. Think of the way a great river meets the ocean. It does not try to hold on to its banks or maintain its identity as a separate stream. It simply opens its arms and merges with the vast, salty deep. The river is not lost, it has simply become something much greater. Your individual story, with all its personal dramas and private shames, is that river. When you forgive yourself, you are allowing your story to merge with the infinite ocean of life. You realize that your struggles were not just yours, but a part of the collective human experience. This realization brings a sense of immense relief. You are no longer a solitary figure struggling against the current, you are the current itself, flowing toward a destiny of total peace and unconditional love. In the quiet hours of the night, when the world is still and your thoughts begin to wander, remember that you are a child of the stars. The very elements that make up your body were forged in the hearts of ancient suns. You are a part of a grand, cosmic design that is far more magnificent than any human mistake could ever diminish. The universe does not judge the stars for their explosions or the planets for their collisions, it simply allows the dance to continue. You are a participant in that dance. Forgive yourself for being human. Forgive yourself for being small. Forgive yourself for being a work in progress. In the eyes of the infinite, you are already complete, already forgiven, and already home. The journey we have taken together through these words is like a walk through a long, winding forest that finally opens up to a vast, sunlit meadow. You can feel the warmth of the light on your face and the softness of the grass beneath your feet. The shadows of the trees are behind you now, and the path ahead is clear and open. You don't need to look back to see how far you've come, you can feel the lightness in your heart as proof of your progress. This is the power of the path we have shared. It has not been about learning new facts, but about remembering the truth that was always there, hidden beneath the noise of your own self-judgment. As you move forward into your life, let your presence be your practice. You do not need to sit on a cushion or go to a temple to find forgiveness. You can find it in the way you wash your dishes, the way you listen to a friend, and the way you walk down the street. Every action performed with a heart of kindness is an act of self-forgiveness. Every moment of patience shown to another is a reflection of the patience you are learning to show yourself. You are becoming a living prayer, a walking testament to the beauty of a soul that has decided to stop hiding. The world is a better place because you have chosen to be real rather than perfect. Imagine a large bell that has been silent for centuries. When it is finally struck, the sound is deep, rich, and carries for miles. Your heart is that bell. The years you spent in the silence of guilt and shame were not wasted, they were the years the bell was waiting to be struck by the hammer of your own compassion. Now that the sound has begun, let it ring out. Let it touch everyone you meet. Let it be a source of strength for the weary and a source of hope for the lost. Your transformation is not just for you, it is a gift to the entire world. By forgiving yourself, you are teaching the world how to heal. You are showing everyone that the light is always stronger than the dark. There is a profound joy in the realization that you no longer have anything to prove. You are who you are, and that is enough. The energy you used to spend on defending your ego or hiding your flaws can now be used for creativity, for service, and for love. You have become a channel for the infinite, a clear vessel through which the light of the universe can shine. This is the highest state of being, where the self is forgotten and only the love remains. In this state, there is no one to forgive and nothing to be forgiven. There is only the eternal, now, filled with the fragrance of the lotus and the music of the spheres. When you look into the eyes of another person, try to see the same light that you have found within yourself. Recognize that they too are carrying their own bundles of regret and their own stories of struggle. Offer them the same grace that you have learned to offer yourself. In doing so, you will find that the boundary between you and them begins to disappear. You are all part of the same beautiful, broken, and recovering family. This sense of oneness is the ultimate fruit of the path of forgiveness. It is the end of isolation and the beginning of true communion. We are all walking each other home, and the road is much easier when we walk it with a heart full of compassion. The stars are beginning to fade, and the first light of a new day is touching the mountain peaks. This is the moment of your awakening. The long night of self-reproach is over, and the dawn of your new life has arrived. Take a deep breath of the morning air and feel the vitality surging through your veins. You are alive. You are free. You are loved. There is nothing left to say, and there is nothing left to do but to live this day with all the grace and all the kindness you possess. The universe is watching you with a smile, and the earth is supporting every step you take. You are the power of forgiveness in motion, a radiant being of light walking through a world that is waiting for your touch. Everything that has been shared here is like a map that you can now fold up and put in your pocket. You don't need to look at it every second because you already know the way. The destination is your own heart, and you are already there. The peace you have been seeking was never outside of you, it was the very thing that was seeking through your own eyes. Relax into that peace. Let it soak into your bones and fill your mind with its quiet, steady light. You are a miracle. You are a blessing. You are a part of the infinite. And you are, now and forever, profoundly and beautifully at home in yourself.